One that I actually really wanted to talk about, I've been itching a lot to talk about this for a week, and I haven't been itching on my leg, or I guess you could say it's like the two ball things around my leg. I've been itching there quite a fair bit. This was actually reported on Gettable, I believe, and Callum Toomey was actually saying that Dan Houston has met with Carlton, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, and Collingwood, and he can rule out St Kilda as being the team who is no longer interested in Dan Houston. You might be thinking, didn't he recommit to, Port Adelaide a little bit ago? Yes, he kind of did, but in saying that, apparently that was all full of crap. He only did that so that Port don't lose their focus in finals, and he just, again, didn't want to stir the pot, which I guess that's a nice thing for him to do. But he lied. He wants to get back to Victoria. That has been confirmed by a bunch of people. But where I'm going with this is, he met with all those teams because he wants to play finals, and he wants to get a much bigger contract than what he's on now, and he wants to play in Victoria. The thing is that they reported on Gettable by Callum Toomey, is what I'm trying to say, is that he believes, even though Houston has not met with North Melbourne, he thinks North Melbourne are a massive, serious chance to go after Dan Houston, as they believe they have a really good young core right now, and they're willing to throw away potentially their future first, or maybe their pick even this year, if they're going to put it in negotiations with Port Adelaide. And I actually think this is a really smart move by both parties. Again, North have an exceptional young core right now. They have 100 young midfielders with players like Colby McKercher not even being able to get into that midfield and having to play down back. I don't necessarily know if they need another midfielder. And the thing is with North Melbourne, I think, is if they were to maybe trade away this pick to try and get Dan Houston, yes, Houston might not be worth pick 2, but in saying that, you could maybe get something else back in return, and necessarily it's a good situation for North because they don't need another midfielder, and it's just all midfielders in the top 10. But I think pick 2 is too expensive for him. I think if North were interested in maybe going down this direction that I think they should, is potentially at pick 2, they could very well go and get a Harvey Langford, who, even though he's a tall midfielder, can easily play as a high half forward, a really good marking option up there, and he has been able to do that very well. They could go out and get him and play him 50% forward, 50% midfield, and then trade next year's future first round pick to go and get Dan Houston to the team. Again, assuming they get Houston, a Harvey Langford, a Jack Darling, and maybe another player or two, which we know they're interested in. You get Griffin Logue and a couple other of those players or whatnot back from injury. You got Comben down back now. That North team actually sounds a lot better than second last that they have been this season. I wouldn't be surprised if that North team actually finished 13th or something like that, and very much trended upwards and would be a top 8 team in 2 years. The thing is, Port Adelaide would benefit from this. They'd get pick 5 or pick 6 for Dan Houston. I think that's a fair trade. He's a 2-time All-Australian in a row. But Dan Houston gets to go back to Melbourne. He gets to go to the team that I think can offer him by far the most amount of money. And I think if North Melbourne, gained him, Harvey Langford, and continue to develop this young core, there is no reason they wouldn't make the 8 in a year or two after 2025. We got to remember, before 2024, North Melbourne had by far the worst backline I think I've nearly ever seen in my days of watching footy. All of a sudden, they added Charlie Comben down there, who has been really good for them. Griffin Logue is going to come back from injury. You have a chance to get Dan Houston, a 2-time All-Australian halfback, arguably the best halfback in the game. And I think if they really wanted to maybe move some picks, try and trade up in this year's draft, they could very well go after a Luke Traynor, who is the best key defender in this draft, who was dropped all the way from ranking number 9 to number 17. Again, if he is available at like 14 and North trade up their second round pick this year and maybe next year to try and move up and get him, that would be such a W by North Melbourne. You would practically fully fit all of this out. And even though this kind of sounds NBA 2K-ish and pretty like fantasy-like, I actually really disagree, because I think if Dan Houston was thinking right, North Melbourne should 100% be an option for him. Because if you try and go to Collingwood, Carlton, or Western Bulldogs, two of those teams don't even have their first round pick this year. And their picks are not going to be high at any means. It is going to be complicated to get there. Those three teams are struggling cap space wise. And even though they're making finals, that should not be the main ploy to go to a team. You have to look at the future and know what is going to be the best available spot for you in a couple of years, if that is the matter. It's not like he's that old. If North Melbourne came to you and offered a couple $100,000 per year extra than all those teams, which they will, they can offer up their future first, which will be like 6. Port Adelaide would love that. Easy trade condition terms. And you know they're going to make the finals in like 2 years. Why? Why is this a bad decision? Why is this not being talked about more? I think this makes sense, and North desperately need a half-back. I think so bad, especially now that Sheaves was a full-time midfielder, and McKercher will definitely be playing a bit more down, in the midfield now. And we know Zach Fisher is no good as a player. It makes sense for North Melbourne to do this deal, I think. I think they should go full steam ahead, and I'd be pretty upset if I was a North fan and they didn't go and try and do this. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Who do you guys think is going to get traded? Who do you guys think is not? Go and subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channel, and subscribe to this channel for all the latest sports content and news and whatnot. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.